On November 29, 1864 AD, 700 members of the 3rd and 1st Colorado Cavalry attacked Big Sandy Creek Camp, which was home for several hundred southern Cheyenne and Arapaho natives. The attack was led by Colonel John Chivington, an officer in the United States Volunteer Army who also happened to be a Methodist minister. The encampment was organized by Chief Black Kettle, who for the past several months was trying to parlay a truce with the local Colorado officials. The two sides have been pestering each other, despite having federal protection from the government. The cavalry was led to the encampment by James Beckworth, a fur trapper turned scout who lived most of his life with native tribes. The Colorado Volunteer Cavalry units gathered at Fort Lyon a day before, on November 28, to plan the attack, and were later joined by members of the 1st New Mexico Volunteer Infantry. Several officers and cavalrymen did not want to participate in the attack on Sandy Creek. One of them was Captain Silas Soule, a conductor of the Underground Railroad and abolitionist. He said that attacking a peaceful Indian village would violate the pledge of safety provided to the Indians and would dishonor the uniform of the army, but Soule went along in the end. The attack occurred on the morning of November 29, 1864. Chivington ordered his men to brutally attack the camp. Captain Soule and Lieutenant Kramer, the two officers who didn't want to participate in the attack but went along anyway, told their men to stand down and refuse to fire. Chief Black Kettle, who was afraid of an attack by the cavalry, raised the U.S. flag that was given to him by the commander of the Fort Lyon to show his tribe was a peaceful one, along with a flag of surrender, and raised it earlier to prevent any such attack. Chivington ignored the flags of submission and had his men brutally attack Black Kettle's camp. Most of the people residing there were women, old men, and children, but that didn't matter to the cavalrymen, who slaughtered anywhere from reported 200 to 700 people, and those that tried to escape were met by cannon fire. One of the natives who escaped the initial attack, Peace Chief Lone Bear, fled from the camp, but after seeing that all of his people were being slaughtered, he deliberately chose to go back into the one-sided battle to die with him. Another survivor and future Cheyenne historian, George Bent, managed to escape the massacre by fleeing upstream the nearby river, despite being wounded in his hip. Bent, along with 100 survivors, found safety in the native camps on the Smoky Hill River. Bent remembers that day, saying, "In the camps, all was confusion and noise. Men, women, and children rushing out of the lodge partially dressed. Women and children screaming at the sight of the troops. Men running back into the lodges for their arms. Black Kettle had a large American flag tied to the end of a long pole and kept calling out not to be frightened, that the camp was under protection and there was no danger. White Antelope, when he saw the soldiers shooting into the lodges, made up his mind not to live any longer. He stood in front of his lodge with his arms folded across his breast, singing the death song. Nothing lives long, he sang, only the earth and the mountains." The elderly White Antelope, who for years tried to get white settlers and natives to live together in peace, was killed. He died at his lodge, singing his death song, before he was murdered by a soldier. After the attack, Chivington ordered his men to return to the camp and kill the wounded, plunder the teepees, and collect trophies. The cavalry suffered 76 casualties, including 24 dead, which were most likely caused by friendly fire. But the true hideousness of the Sand Creek Massacre wasn't known until it was fully investigated by the U.S. Congress months later, which opened up a Pandora's box of horrors. Black Kettle, who escaped the attack, returned to the camp to rescue his wife, who was shot several times. He continued to believe that his people could get along with the Colorado government peacefully, but his fellow Cheyenne, along with the Kiowas and the Comanche, disagreed and vowed to fight the U.S. government. Black Kettle reflected about the incident, saying, "Although wrongs have been done me, I live in hopes. I have not got two hearts. I once thought that I was the only man that persevered to be the friend of the white man. But since they have come and cleaned out our lodges, horses, and everything else, it is hard for me to believe white men anymore.